Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated Legacy action. Today we are playing a donation deck of a pretty spicy mono-blue painter list. So this is a list that has 5 Oda League as well, and we've got a lot of moving pieces, so let's just jump right into it. So we have the Painter's Servant combo, but we only have 2 painters in the main deck and the Grindstone. So if you assemble these 2 cards, the Grindstone will mill your opponent's entire library in one go. Now to find the other ones of these that we have got a Karn. So this can go and fetch our Painter's Servant or our Grindstone from the sideboard. If we draw one half of the combo, we can just go get the other one. So that's one of the things our deck's doing, as well as just a classic Karn board. So we've got the Liquimetal Coating, we've got Mycosynth Lattice, we've got Sky Sovereign, Walking Ballista, Sorcerous Spyglass, and a few. Torpor Orb is a less common one, but we've got that one here. We've also got Lion's Eye Diamond, Tormod's Crypt, Haywire Mite. We've got a whole bunch of stuff here, right? So that we can kind of play the game from the sideboard if we need to with the cards. It means we don't have a lot of options when it comes to sideboarding. So those are 2 of the plans we have going on. Then we also have just this classic Emry value plan. So we can Emry and then replay Urza and Mishra's Baubles to draw an extra card every turn. And the fact that we're milling means that we might be able to give ourselves some extra value going on there, which goes very nicely with our Urza Saga plan. Now, that's not where our plans end. Oh no, we've got more plans. So, we've also got Urza High Lord Artificer. This is a card that used to see play in 8 cast before a few of the better tools got printed along the way. This is sort of one of the earlier builds. What this does is give you an Urza Saga token when it comes in, which is pretty good, and it allows you to tap your artifacts for mana, which is pretty helpful. But then, if you have a load of mana and nothing to do with it, Urza gives you something to do with it. You can just keep paying 5 and getting a random card from your deck that you get to play every turn. Now, that's not the best engine because you're getting a random card. You don't know how good it's going to be. It might just be some lands or whatever, but it's something we can do. It means we're usually going to have ways to spend our mana with this deck. So because we're fitting all these plans in, we are a little bit light on some of the classic things you'd expect out of an 8-cast type shell. So we only have 1 Sai and 1 Thought Monitor, 1 Kappa Cannoneer. So we have these things in our deck to find, and one of the ways we're going to try and find them is Echo of Eons. That's right, we have another plan in the deck. So we're using Echo of Eons and these 3 Lion's Eye Diamonds, the 4th one in the board for the Karn, to put an Echo of Eons into our graveyard and refill our hand. So because we are a deck that can play to the board quite effectively, because we have all of these 0 drops and a decent chunk of mana and stuff, so we're going to be dropping to the board. So just reloading for 7 is probably going to benefit us more than our opponent anyway, because our deck's built to take advantage of it. However, we also have 1 Narset and 2 Hullbreacher. So if we have one of these in play and fire off our Echo, then we just mind twist our opponent out of the game, and then we get 7 cards. And we also get some treasure if we have the Hullbreacher. So we've got a lot of plans. We've got Karn board, we've got Painted Grindstone, we've got classic Urza Saga beatdown into Shadowspear, we've got the Echo of Eons, Hullbreacher plan, and we've got a little bit of room for disruption of 3 Chalice and 4 Force of Will to kind of hold the whole thing together. There's also one thing in the mana base that, well, 2 things in the mana base that really interest me in this deck. We have a single Cavern, which means we can make an uncounterable Painted Servant if that's a thing we require, but we could also use that for something like a Turtle, or a Construct is less likely, but having uncounterable Hullbreachers is going to be quite useful in some matchups. For example, like the controlling matchups where they're going to be casting a Brainstorm. If we put an uncounterable Hullbreacher in, that's going to cause our opponent a lot of trouble. But because we have access to all these Mox Opals and Lotus Petals anyway, and we have a lot of colourless sources, we shouldn't feel the missing island too much here, but I could be wrong. We then also have a Minamo School at Water's Edge. This allows us to untap target legendary permanent. This is pretty much there just to untap the Emry, so we can kind of go off and do some more activations of our Emry. So we can use this a bit like a Library of Alexandria in some ways, where it's going to be effectively tapping to draw us a card. So it's going to tap and pay 1, unfortunately. It's not free, but to untap our Emry, get back another Bauble, and keep digging. this can also use us to expand out our mana a little bit too. So the cards in our sideboard that aren't part of our wish board. We've got 2 Faerie Macabre for graveyard matchups and a Dismember for things like Collector Roof, which is going to cause us some amount of problems, I would imagine. Now, we can use a Karn to go and get a Sky Sovereign to deal with a Collector Roof, but obviously that's a lot of mana, and a lot of our mana is tied up in artifacts, so that might be difficult. I suspect that's one of the things that's going to cause us issues, and we're just going to have to try and answer it with Force of Wills and be careful with how we use them. But that's pretty much it. I'll also say that this deck doesn't have any Otawara, so we don't have like the free bounce. We're playing the Minamo instead. But we're trying to go off a little bit, I guess, is the plan. So we're going to see how it fares. It's quite an interesting one, with a lot of different moving parts and a lot of decisions along the way. So hopefully I'll make the right ones. Right, before we jump into the league, if you want to support the channel, like, comment, subscribe are free ways of doing this. If you're in a position to help me financially, you can sign up to my Patreon or my YouTube membership. Or you can contact me directly to give me a donation deck. Alright, let's jump into a League of Legacy with this 8-cast Echo of Eons painter deck. Well, it's not really 8 cast, is it? We don't have 8 casts. We have 1 cast. 1 cast. 1 cast painter Echo, I guess. Alright, let's stop discussing the name of the deck and play some Legacy. We're on the play for round 1. And we have a hand. What does this hand do for us? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have a turn 2 Kappa Cannoneer. That's probably pretty good, right? I think we should keep that and see if we can just drop the Cannoneer and then ride that to victory. Sure, we'll keep that. We've also followed up with a turn 3 Karn. And if our opponent looks like a storm deck or some description, we can reappraise the situation. So I think we are playing out some of our bits and pieces here. Let's play this up. So we have 4 mana here. This is the other 2 mana. So we can't crack our Bauble because we're going to need that for the improvise. This way we're representing quite a lot of stuff for our opponent here. We're wanting to keep the Bauble online, which means they could fear something like Metallic Rebuke. Will our Kappa Cannoneer resolve? We can't play the Saga and get the Kappa Cannoneer out. And we can't play this Karn. So we have a choice now. We can either try and drop the Cannoneer into potential counterspell, or we can try and play a Saga game. I think we try and drop the Kappa Cannoneer this turn. It does mean that our Saga, that our city is going to get lost here, but if we can get this Kappa Cannoneer into play, it's going to be a very quick clock. And worst case scenario, it's probably going to get 2 cards out of our opponent's hand, right? I guess they could have a daze, and it could set them back a little bit. Alright, they're brainstorming. They need to find an answer to this. The Lion's Eye Diamond that's in play is going to let our opponent know we're doing something that's not traditional 8 cast. Alright, so we've got Force of Will pitching a Polymorph. Alright. I know what this deck is. This is like Staff the Storyteller Polymorph into usually Archon of Cruelty, but sometimes it could be, well, it could be anything, right? We don't really have any removal to interact with a Polymorph. We're just going to have to kill, try and get rid of it on the stack with counter magic, or beat our opponent down quickly. A Caracas, sure. So Emry's going to be a bad draw. Let's tap this for 2. 1 and 1. And we'll play this out just in case our opponent does have days. We're going to be able to get ourselves above it here. Let's cast this Karn. Interesting. I think we are going to go and get ourselves a... Maybe a Liquimetal Coating is going to be good here. We can just stop our opponent's mana. If we're worried about the Polymorph hitting something, we could get something like a Walking Ballista to deal with stuff, or we could try... I think we'll just go and get the Liquimetal Coating now. And then next time we might be able to Lattice anyway, because of the Lion's Eye Diamond. So we kind of want to draw a blue card next turn. If we draw a blue card, the fact that they let the Karn resolve means that we can probably squeeze a Lattice in. Actually, the blue card's not really going to matter for the Force of Will because we have to discard our hand with the Lionside Diamond before we cast the spell. Going to be a little bit tough. I think our opponent's going to have a pretty white heavy mana base because they're going to be playing Staff of Storytellers, which is going to be a draw engine as well as a bit of tokens for the polymorph. And they're probably going to have Shark Typhoons. They're going to be like polymorph Shark Tail. A Teferi Time Raveler. That was an interesting one. Are we losing the Karn here? Or are they going to bounce our Saga? We're going to bounce the Saga. Sure, we'll float one in response. They didn't counter the Karn before. So do we think they've got a counter spell now? They have drawn an additional card since then, 2 additional cards since then. Right, let's see if we can get something out of them with this Liquimetal Coating. Right, let's just start stripping out the Tundra here. And this time I think we will be drawing an additional card. It makes our Saga tokens weaker, but that's not really what this game is about. Our Force of Will isn't really doing anything in the face of this Teferi. Okay, so we have a Grindstone win next turn if we want it, right? Okay, there's the currency convert we know about. Right, our opponent's conceding there because we just got a whole bunch of stuff. It feels like we have multiple ways of winning the game here. We could just pump out some Saga tokens, deal with their Teferi whilst wastelanding them out of the game, or we could try and go for a win. I think the safest way is just to slowly strip mine our opponent out of the game. Alright, sideboarding. Alright, that's it for sideboard. No, I think we can put in this one, Dismember. I think that's probably going to be useful. If our opponent's got a lot of tokens, maybe we'll want we'll want this Shadowspear, just so we can sort of trample over. It's a case of what do we want Karn board and what do we want. I'm not really sure we're in the market for all of these LEDs because they're very all in against the blue deck. We don't have anything like a defense grid to find to try and push through our thing. So I think we're just going to trim one of our LEDs for Dismember and probably keep the full Karn packaging because Karn's going to be pretty good in a matchup. Like this matchup's going to be relatively slow and grindy, but they do have a sort of I win button that they can press. It's a case of do you want anything in the main instead of in the board? I think we're just going to run it like this though. The Chalice should shut down quite a bit of their deck because they're going to have Ponders and Brainstorms and such like. Alright, what does this hand do? Turn 2 Chalice, turn 3 Hullbreacher. That might be quite slow. I think we'll keep it and give it a whirl. Our opponent is like a turn 4 combo deck. They might have Petals or something in their deck though, but no play on turn 1 is interesting to me. We can lead out with an island, and then we can have a look at our opponent's hand here. It's a Faerie Time Raveler, sure. There's a Grindstone. So we have a combo in hand. We will need the mana to execute this, and it's making our Chalice a lot worse being in our hand because we don't really want to play a Chalice on 1 here. Staff of the Storyteller, sure. So they have a Teferi for next turn if they want it. Emry, does that change anything here? This costs 2 mana to deploy, but we can play the Grindstone for free and get the Emry in. And once the Grindstone's in play, it's going to be easier for us to cast our Chalice without worrying about what it does. So let's try this Grindstone. Now our opponent could have something like an Emrakul they're trying to polymorph it to. I imagine they want something that gets some immediate value. Let's try an Emry. We have seen Karakas from our opponent's decks. This Emry might not be great. Alright, we're getting a Force though. Force pitching the Teferi we knew about. Okay. So a Lion's Eye Diamond would give us the potential to win the game next turn. Sure, they're drawing a card with their Staff of the Storyteller. Windswept Teeth, we're going to take 1 damage here. So our opponent might be able to polymorph next turn. There's not really much we can do about it right now, which is unfortunate. Force of Will. Okay, so that's something we get to do things with now. What is the correct play? There's a lot of options here. We can try and jam and just put our opponent to the test. Now, there are white decks, they might have white removal. We could try and play out this Chalice first. I think we'll try the Chalice out first. This will shut off things like Source to Plowshare so we can keep our Painter's Servant around. And we've already got the 1-drop we care about in play in the Grindstone. Now, if they play a Teferi and bounce our Grindstone, that's going to be a real pain for us. We can always Karn away our own Chalice if we need to, but that's a horrible play that I'd rather not make. It's 2 mana. A Shark Typhoon. This is just to draw a card. Alright. This does put a counter on Staff of Storyteller, so it's kind of like 3 mana, draw 2 cards. It's build your own divination is what they've done there. But they can sort of spread the cost out over multiple turns. Okay, I don't think they hit a 4th land there, which means their hand must be pretty stacked. We can't really play this Hullbreacher until our opponent... until we draw a blue card, sorry. Because of our opponent having... Okay, they've got a 4th mana, but no polymorph unless they're waiting for protection. Okay, so we have an Ancient Tomb. Does that change anything here? This means we can go 1-2 and play a Painted Servant. And our opponent has to panic and counter this or lose the game. And we can just Karn up. We could be really cheeky here and just play a Hullbreacher, but I think I'd rather have a Force of Will. It clearly appears that our opponent doesn't have an immediate answer to Painted Servant and they're fishing for one. So I'm just going to force this through and try and win the game. I shot off a load of our opponent's cards via the Chalice. I think as a painter comes into play here, we can just win the game. Okay, they had another counter spell. All right. A little bit awkward. We could get punished for this. So we got a polymorph out of our opponent though, so in a way, we kind of did what we needed. Right, we take one from this. Look, polymorph. So I think we're supposed to mill our opponent in response in case we hit the thing that they're going to get. An Archon of Cruelty. Yeah, so it is the build that I saw before. We do discard our Karn here, which is pretty bad news for us. We have one more Painted Servant in our deck, which does win us the game. Right, they're pondering into this. We need something good here. A Shadowspear. So this is a spell that doesn't do anything. Not great for us. So this is coming in for 9. So we have one more turn and our Ancient Tomb gets shut off. Gonna be tough. We're still going to grind our opponent, see if we can see some more cards from our opponent's deck. This is 8. We take 6, go to 2, so our Ancient Tomb is shut off now. So we can't draw Painted Servant as a line. Gonna be tough. That's a Fairy, sure. This might bounce our Chalice, so they can unlock their 1-drops. Okay, we're gonna see more of their deck, just in case we get any useful information about how they sideboarded. Nothing new there. We can't grind them out now because of our own Chalice. It's gonna be tough. What have we got? A Hullbreacher. So we can play this. When they attack, we get to draw a card. What can we realistically draw that does anything here? I don't think there is anything. And I don't really want to show them the Hullbreacher. Okay. So, is there anything I'd like to do differently? I don't think so. Like, some of these cards in our sideboard could be main deck cards. But being able to find them feels quite important. Like when the time comes. So I think we will just resubmit as is. And hope for the best, I guess. Maybe we can do the Days Undoing type stuff. We could always sell out one of our... Actually, maybe that's quite good. If we take out an Echo for a Spyglass. Or a Torpor Orb. Spyglass, I think. It's a bit like that. It's just a slight difference there. Because we've already cut down on our Lion's Eye Diamonds. So we don't want as many Echoes necessarily. Okay. We get to do some stuff here. We have a turn 3 Painter Kill, as well as just a pretty serviceable as a Saga game. And we'll keep this one and see if we can get there with it. So then there's a Saga. I think we play out the... We haven't seen red from our opponent's deck. So I don't think we're looking at Meltdown. And because they've got stuff with Storyteller, they're not going to have Serenity either. Play this out. Let's play out a Bauble. And I think we're just going to make a couple of Sagas. See if that does enough. We want to at least waste some of our opponent's removal on our Saga tokens. We could go for the combo this turn, but I think we're going to Saga this turn. We still get the Grindstone here, though. What is this, a Dress Down? Oh, they're just fetching around Pit and Needle. Could still be a Dress Down as well. I think we want the Grindstone here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can play a land and make a Kappa Cannoneer and have lethal in the next turn. That seems like an okay position to be in. Like, our clock doesn't... does it change? Our clock does change slightly there, yeah. So we could have killed our opponent slightly earlier, I think, by not doing that. If we just make constructs or we make artifacts. But I think that was relatively free because of the attack. Do we have any compulsion to do anything differently here? Play this out. We don't have the mana to... Are we supposed to play... I think we do play the Painted Servant here. Or do we? We can attack for 12 here. And we can just go wide enough. So if we play the Painted Servant, we can potentially turn on our Force of Will. I think we're supposed to attack with these two guys. Make a construct. Again, Dress Down is going to be pretty miserable for us, but maybe we're just going to construct beat them down. Right. Now we can have a look at top card of our opponent's library and hopefully find ourselves a blue card. A Polluted Delta. So I imagine they're going to cast they're going to cycle a Shark Typhoon and then try and polymorph the next turn. Now we can beat an Archon of Cruelty here, but we might not be able to beat Archon of Cruelty plus something else. Now if we can draw a blue card off this Bauble trigger, then we'll be okay. We did draw a blue card, so we can try and fight over the polymorph if they try it this turn. Doesn't look like they're trying it this turn. I guess they get their attack in first because it's more or less free. And then they'll do it in their second main phase. I have to imagine that. Supreme Verdict. Interesting. Okay. We can try and grindstone our opponent out now. We'll float and go for a grindstone kill. I think we can just get a Bauble here. 1, 2, 3... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so we do have the 6 mana required. So we'll get a Bauble so we can see if our opponent's got something that we're worried about. Hold on. We want to tap this for blue first. And then we'll play this one out. Keep this one. Tap this one for blue. And then we'll do this so that we don't lose Metalcraft. Let's have a look what our opponent's got. Shurikai. Okay. Let's try for the Painter. And we'll name green. Alright, they didn't have it. So we pressured them with the Sagas, then came back with the Painter combo to win. Pretty effective. Yeah, deck felt like it did have a lot of lines, and this was one where all of our different lines were actually kind of doing a similar thing. You know, we're all about making artifacts and making mana and stuff like that. And, you know, our grindstone does pump our constructs and such like. So our opponent has a lot to think about, and they're tapping out there to stop themselves dying to this, which lets them die to something else. So, yeah. Pretty good. Let's go to round 2. We're on the play for round 2. We've got a weird hand here. We can get up into Narset territory, but we're going to need another mana source to do it, right? So we don't have Metalcraft for what we have here. Do we think we can draw something on our second turn? Is this any good? I think we can mulligan and get a better hand because our mana is really not coming together here. I don't want to just have to draw a 0-drop or basically lose the game. So I think we'll mulligan. This hand doesn't do anything. What do we do with this hand? We can play a Saga game with Force of Will backup and then pivot into something else. I think we'll keep this 5. So we want to keep... so we'll keep Saga, we'll keep Tomb, we'll keep our blue source. And then we'll keep in Force of Will and 1 blue card. Which blue card would we like better? Given our current situation, I think the Emry is going to be better than the Sai. So we get rid of the second Tomb and the Sai. So the Emry is going to be better for us than the Sai, I think, here, because this is only a 1 mana play, so we can squeeze it in to our curve a little bit more easily, and it can draw us the cards to get back in this game, whereas the Sai requires us to have cards to make it do its thing. That's the logic I'm going with anyway. Makes sense to me. There's a tiger. Interesting. Wasn't a wasteland, which is nice for us. Probably could be like the initiative deck. Red-green initiative, but we're just going to play a Saga game for a couple of turns and see what shakes loose. We might want to get a Bauble off of this, so then we just set up ourselves drawing an extra card every turn. We'd very much like to have another blue card though before we start doing Emry. Because we also have the Minamo, I think getting the Emry loop set up is going to be pretty good. An Ancient Tomb. Certainly feeling like an initiative deck. A Chromox. So we kind of just need to counter the scary thing that comes out of all these resources they're playing. So Minsk and Boo, for example, would be very scary. This is also scary enough to say no to. We don't really want to play an initiative game right now. Let's do this now. Make a token. Especially since we have an Ancient Tomb. Our life total is going to be taking a hit from ourselves. We don't have the Emry plan anymore, which is not ideal. Alright, let's... What are we finding here? We could just play a Shadowspear and jam and hope that these guys do enough. If we play the City of Traitors, that's not going to go amazingly for us. So I think this turn we're just playing out the seat and getting 4 damage in. The next turn we can have guys that can tussle with initiative creatures quite effectively. Post-board, we're going to have to watch out for Force of Vigor. Possibly Meltdown as well, but it seems unlikely they'd run Meltdown with Chromoxes in their deck. But people play some wild stuff sometimes. I imagine it's just the Force of Vigor though. There's a Cozy Chaos Adventurer. Now, I'm not sure they actually want the initiative game to be enabled here because we have the better board right now. So we get to attack with a 5/5. And if we find any more artifacts. Okay, they're putting this on 0 to stop our 0 drops, obviously. So that's pretty good. A Narset Part of Veils. That's not really what this game is about right now. I think this game is about me... I guess we can jam the Minamo here. And then equip this to one of our guys. We can't stop them trampling over anyway. Although we can re-equip. We can attack with both guys and trade off here. Is that better? I don't know if that's better or not, actually. I think we'll attack with both. So they're either trade off here and take 4, or they won't do anything. But taking 9 when they've introduced initiative in the game feels a little sketchy to me. Alright, so they're going for the trade. We're going to trample over for 2 if they do that. So they'll be taking 6. We'll be gaining the initiative. Our opponent is on the back foot, I would say. So this is going to put us back to 20 life and give us the initiative. And we've got a single island in our deck, so we even get the draw off of the first room. And now, if they want to attack to take the initiative, how are they going to block both of our guys? So they are struggling a bit, I would say. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. This makes them 1 guy. And it puts them to 1 life. That doesn't feel like that's going to stop them from losing the game here. Because my guy has trample, so how are they going to soak all this damage up? Okay, they are going in. That's a bold play there. Fury has entered the exile zone. That's a real card, though. That's going to do some work, I think, potentially. So they can still evoke caster even though it's exiled, I believe. It's just an alternative cast. So they're going to put 2 counters on something. So they can put 2 on their Goblin Shaman and evoke a Fury, but they're still dead. So if they if they evoke a Fury, our construct dies. Our other construct becomes a 4/4, and then they can trade with the construct. So they're relying on us not finding an artifact this turn. Considering they've got the Chalice of the Void, that's not completely unreasonable. Alright, so we need to find an artifact. We do have a Narset to dig for one. Okay. We would like to see what we draw before playing a land, so we're going to take the damage to do this. Let's have a Narset. Let's minus the Narset. Interesting. We did not find these things. we can take the Echo, which is force the attack on the Narset next turn. What does the Karn do for us here? Karn can snipe out some stuff. Not finding an artifact there is certainly awkward. If we take the Echo, then the Caves of Chaos Adventurer has to go with the Narset, or we might be able to Echo them out of the game. So I think we do that. Unfortunately, we just took that 2 damage for no reason. We will attack here, because our line doesn't work if we don't do that, because they have 2 creatures. Now, they could have a Minsk and Boo, and then that's bad for us. But we gain some life there, and then we play out this island they know about. We did not take the initiative, though, actually. So they might just go for our face a little bit. So they can hit us for another 5 this turn. They can put us to 7. Or they can kill the Narset. If they kill the Narset, it buys us another turn, and we might just be able to Echo of Eons anyway. But we are not looking great here. That Fury being exiled off the top of that last Caves of Chaos Adventure attack really swung this one. It's coming at us. Or coming at Narset, sure. So we've bought ourselves 5 life with a Narset there. Now, we might have to Echo of Eons anyway, which would be pretty terrible for us, I think. So, what are we looking for in this situation? If we find a Karn, we can get a Walking Ballista and win the game. Maybe I should have just got the Karn last turn. Why did... Oh my god. Yeah, I punted that one, haven't I? If we get the Karn instead of the Narset... No, sorry, if we take the Karn instead of the Echo. Oh no. What an error that was. Oh, jeez. Do you want to just reload our opponent's hand? Oh, I punted this game and I deserve to lose it, is what's happening here. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's spin the wheel and have a horrible time. Yeah, if we got the Karn, we could have got the Walking Ballista. I totally forgot about that line. Yuck. Okay, so we can't play any 0 drops. We can't play any 1 drops. We do have a Force of Will now. We can play this Emry out. Which is a thing, isn't it? So let's play the Emry. We've already played a land for turn. We have Force of Will up. Can we find something good here? No is the answer. Yeah, it's not looking great for us. Now, if they don't have another creature, well, they're going to get a creature from the Fable, aren't they? Alright, so how are we going to win this game? We just need to draw the Karn that we put away at the bottom because we're an idiot. Sure. I'm sure many of you were screaming at your screens when I didn't take the Karn there. I'm screaming at myself internally, don't worry. Okay, our Ancient Tomb is a forest, so it doesn't have to hurt us anymore, which is something. We have a Force of Will, so something really scary doesn't necessarily have to come into play. And they didn't play Cavern for their land for the turn, so that's nice. Right. If we untap with a Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, we probably lose the game. A Tiger. Okay, that's not very exciting. I think they're supposed to play their land after they attack in case they find a land on the top with their Caves of Chaos Adventure there. Which is a Minsk and Boo, we have to counter it because they can just throw a second Caves of Chaos Adventure. I think we have to say no to this one. So how do we get through this Reflection of Kiki-Jiki? We need to deal 1 point of damage that we could have done if we'd have Karn. I guess we can just draw a Karn. There's 4 of them in the deck. We could... I don't think there's a way we can pump our Emry here. We can put the Shadowspear on attack and they have to lose their guy. But then we die on the backswing most likely. Fury. Okay, so we can't do that play. We can't replay anything from our graveyard because none of those cards were playable anyway, so we've lost our 1 power attacker there more than anything. Okay. Are we just going to draw a Karn now? We don't deserve to draw a Karn. We deserve to lose this game, but sure. I don't care about my graveyard. We're just trying to do one thing. A thing that we could have done if we were smarter. Okay, there is justice in the world and we lost the game. We'd have drawn the Karn and won the game anyway. That's not... doesn't feel very fair. Alright. So we should have won that one, but we now have to go through the rigmarole of this. Dismember is something we're going to want here. Our opponent is a Chalice deck, so our Chalices are probably going to be very bad here. So we're not going to want those. We're probably going to want the Torpor Orb main deck because we would want to cast it before they start playing some of their lads. The Sorcerous Spyglass also shuts down Minsk and Boo, so we probably want that in the main deck as well. That's about it. I don't think we want the Haywire Mite main deck. Maybe we do to stop them chalicing all of our zeros. Maybe we'll have one of these in over an Echo. Because this is something we can get off the Urza Saga to then blow up the Chalice. As long as we get a Mox Opal down first. Alright. What does our hand do? Do we think Urza Saga is good enough? I don't think this is good enough on its own. Against control deck I would keep that, but... Yikes. This is no good. We're going to have to mulligan this one as well. Okay. We can keep this one. So I guess we're pitching the Force of Will and the Ancient Tomb, and we're just going to go for a little spin of the wheel, I guess, with a Painted Servant in play. Our opponent probably didn't think we were running this because of the... we're going to name blue for our Force of Will. They might not have thought we were running this because they didn't see... Because they saw the Chalices. Normally Chalice and Grindstone aren't really the best of friends. Let's mulligan our opponent to 7 and give us a nice little 7. So, what do we got here? We've got Mishra's Bauble. Do we need this for mana? I don't think so. I'd rather have a card. We don't have anything that turns it into mana right now. Once upon a time, sure. So, we've got a Force of Will, and we've got another Force of Will. So, we can stop the first couple of things our opponent does. Okay, we hit a land. That's good. Once upon a time that we knew about, that's fine. I'd rather counter the actual things. If we can find another Ancient Tomb, we can win on turn 3 with double Force of Will. They revealed a mountain. Interesting. Ancient Tomb from our opponent. What would you like to do? If they play a Chalice here, I don't actually care. If it's a Chalice with 0. A Trinisphere. Do we care about 3 ball here? I think we do because we're relying on these Force of Wills. I think we'll get rid of probably a Karn. Because we've got a second Karn if we need one. Because if we don't, then we can't Force of Will the next thing. Because we will have to pay 3 for our Force of Will. Which is something we might be able to do. But I'd rather keep deploying stuff to the board. Another Karn. I think we will do this and name Minsk and Boo. But we'll get to look at our opponent's hand and see what we need to Force of Will here. Allosaurus Shepherd, Fury, Endurance. Not a lot of exciting cards there. Not a lot of exciting cards at all. We're going to name Minsk and Boo. Because that's the thing that can definitely run away with the game. So we can attack for free here. They can pitch cast Endurances, but they don't have any green mana right now. So once they find a forest, they can start playing Allosaurus Shepherds and our Force of Will is turned off. So we're kind of incentivized to fire it off before that happens. But it can always counter red spells. Allosaurus Shepherd just makes green spells uncounterable. So we can always counter this Fury, which is, I guess, the thing we're scared about. I would like to make my Karn this turn, ideally. And Urza's Bauble. That doesn't help us make Karn, does it? Alright, here's a Bauble. Let's have a look at our opponent's hand. We're going to see. Caves of Chaos Adventure. Okay, we did see a new card. Tap for 1. We have perfect information, which is always nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The mountain we've seen twice there, isn't it? Yeah. Alright, so we found the other land. So we can deploy the Karn next turn. And then the turn after we can win the game. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. That doesn't stop us from winning the game, so you can have it. Seat of the Synod. We could just play an Urza. Play an Urza. Then what? We should just get a Karn. We should stop messing about and get a Karn. Just go and get Grindstone. It's a teeny tiny little box. Where is it? Grindstone. So we have Force of Will. Our opponent has one card that does interact with our Painted Servant here. In the form of the Fury. Now they're about to discard some cards. How many cards are we going to see go here? Possibly both an Endurance and an Allosaurus Shepherd. If we counter the Fury, and we hope they don't have another follow-up to kill our Painter. I think that's what we do. There's the Fury. We will say no to this. We will pitch our... Interesting. I think we pitch the Seat here. Just keep the maximum amount of good stuff in our hand in case this doesn't work and we need to pivot to something else. So what next after this one? Simian Spirit Guides. They still have the Caves of Chaos Adventurer. So there's going to be the Caves of Chaos Adventurer and then they're dead next turn. Alright, so we should have won this match, but we punted the first game. Cool. So we're going to have to try and win a game 3 on the draw. We have perfect information in our hands, so we know they can't interfere with what we're doing here. Now, if they have a thing that stops them getting milled, then we're in a whole spot of bother right there. We'll just soak up the damage here. Play Grindstone. And they've conceded rather than show us their deck. Sure. So they don't have a Gaia's Blessing or anything. Now, they might have a Gaia's Blessing for the next game, though. That's very much a thing that could happen. So, do I want to change anything from how we boarded here? I don't think so. I think we just have to go for it like this. Now, there is the option of just putting more of our combo pieces into the deck. So having more Painters and more Grindstones available. But we definitely want Karns to find the bridge. Do we want these? Like, Sai is very good if we can get it up and running. Like, the Narset Echo combo is fine here. I think we just submit like this. I think if we do the Painter, put the Painter in the Grindstone, and then we'll end up regretting it, because that's usually how this game works. So what does our hand do here? We have Narset on turn 2, which can then go and find the thing we need, maybe. But we don't have any interaction with our opponent to begin with. I think we're supposed to mulligan, to be honest. We need to have a Force of Will or something. Yes, okay, so we have a Force of Will. We can keep this one. I don't think we want the Kappa Cannoneer. This is a much later part of our plan. We can play an Emry on turn 1 and hold up Force of Will. We're using the Echo of Eons to pitch. Once upon a time. So I'd rather have the Kappa Cannoneer on our deck than another copy of Echo. That's why we put the Kappa Cannoneer back and left the Echo in our hand. Because if we're going to pitch something to Force of Will, I'd rather it be the Echo. And you never know, we might end up with a Lion's Eye Diamond turn that becomes really good. So we could do that. Right, Simian Spirit Guide has entered the revealed card zone. There is a Chrome Mox. I think we let them have the Mox because we know they already have a Simian Spirit Guide. This Spirit Guide is probably just getting pitched, yeah. But they would have had access to coloured mana. Magus of the Moon. I think we're supposed to counterspell this because we can't cast our spells very easily. Yeah, not a fan of that, but I think we have to, given the nature of our deck. Otherwise, you'd have to crack our Lotus Petal to make the Emry, and then we're never really getting anywhere from that point onwards. What do we find in our graveyard? Now, we know they've got Endurances. Okay, so we found a Painter's Servant. That's interesting. We will need some more mana to deploy these Karns. Double Karn is not where we want to be right now. So we can crack the Lotus Petal, then replay the Lotus Petal. So if we find land, we can play Karn and blow up their Mox next turn. But we need to get to the next turn in one piece. Looks like we're getting Caves of Chaos Adventured here. There it is. Sure. So this is going to be less than great for us, I would describe. Now, if we can draw a Dismember, maybe we can get a bit lucky here. Dismember their guy, come in with the Emry, steal the initiative, get a land. But we only have one Dismember in our deck. Okay, so we have a Bauble. So we didn't draw the land, so we can't do anything too exciting here. I think we are just going to draw 2 cards. Let's see what they got on top of their library. A Trinisphere. Unlisted opponent. It's cast, so we definitely can't get back our Seat of the Synod, in case you're wondering, because this is cast, not play. We could just play a Painter's Servant, but then we won't have 2 mana. I think we're just going to get another Bauble and get another redraw. And this way we can hopefully draw into the mana to play through this 3-ball that's probably going to kill us. If our opponent plays a 3-ball and nothing else, then they don't get to hold the initiative Unless they don't attack. But they're definitely going to be attacking here. Right, we get a card. It's not a very good one. We get a card. That's a land. That's one of the things we wanted. So they don't play the 3-ball. We can Karn and get rid of their Chrome Mox. But then what? Then we... And turn after, we can replay a Painted Servant, and by that point we're probably dead. Kind of need our opponent to not have something. This is a 7-power creature coming in at us. So we don't have a lot of time to repair the situation we're in. There's the 3-ball we knew about. Sure. So we can't make the Karn play this turn. Unless we draw a Soul Land. Okay, so here is a... This is the thing that doesn't work. What we can do, though, is we can go to attacks, get the initiative. It stops us taking 5 immediately, but we will take 5 in a second. But we have the Minamo, so we can untap our guy to survive, which is a horrible play, but it's the play we have. So we take 10 this turn and go to 2. And then what? That's the real question. So we have to block here or we die, because the trap will do another 5 damage to us. So they go into trap, we go to 2, and then I think we lose. We punted the first game, and that's why we're going to lose this one. If we hadn't punted game 1, we wouldn't even be playing this game, so we deserve to lose this round. So I don't feel bad about getting punished for my play mistake. I'm not particularly used to the Karn sideboards. I don't really play Karn decks. Alright, Force of... yeah. You got us. Don't worry. Yeah, so we should have won that one, but we didn't. So that's on me, not the deck. So I think the deck performed pretty well. Like, we lost to them on the play there, when they were on the play, but that's pretty understandable. Alright, let's go to round 3. We've won ourselves another die roll. We have a turn 2 Sai to start spitting tokens, or we can make a turn 2 Karn if that's the thing we need to pivot on. I think this is acceptable, and I will keep it. We are very cold to a turn 1 Blood Moon, but that's the break sometimes. We've got all these Ancient Tunes, so I'm going to lead out on Ancient Tune. That also gives us the flex into the Karn for turn 2. If that's a thing that looks like it's going to be good against our opponent. Otherwise, we'll drop a Sai and a Bauble next turn. And then we'll start working in with this Karn. A Badlands. A Lotus Petal. Okay, feels like we're about to get reanimated. I'm not convinced our deck's going to be very good against Reanimator. 4 mana. Just a hard cast Grief. That's fine. So they can take our Sai or they can take our Karn. Probably take the Karn just because it represents the most amount of things. So Karn could go and get Tormod's Crypt, which might ruin their second turn. Oh, they took the Sai. Interesting. Alright, so if we minus the Karn, it's going to die, is certainly an issue. We'll go 2 mana for this. Another 2 mana. I think we just plus this turn just to keep it around. I think we do need... do we need cards? I think we'll do this in our opponent's turn because we don't just want to get our cards Thought Seized away because we're not going to be able to have Forcible Blue card. Now, we could be taking ourselves off of Metalcraft, but Karn can find us many artifacts. We can play the Skyship Sovereign next turn and blow up their Grief. The other option we could have done there is minus the Karn and get a Tormod's Crypt. But if our opponent had one of the explosive, put a scary thing into the bin and attack you with it turns, they probably would have just done that turn 1. So, and then pitch the Grief. So I figured we got another turn to try and do something. We can get the Liquimetal Coating and start getting in our opponent that way. We have options. That does not strike me as a particularly strong play. They are Animate Deading our Sai Master Thopterist. Let's see what our opponent's working with over there. And Entomb. Okay, so they had Entomb into Animate Dead. Then that means they probably have another Entomb type shenanigans here. Huh. We can just have a whole new 7 if we want it. Do we want it is the real question. Because this can go and get us a Lion's Eye Diamond. We can get a Lattice now, but our opponent can certainly mess with what we've got going on. We can get an Ensnaring Bridge. Sure. Let's go for Ensnaring Bridge. I'll play this out. I'll take a bit of damage for this, but we'll play this. See what we mill up. An Echo of Eons. A bit of a weird one with Ensnaring Bridge. Our deck does a lot of different things. Some of them are not necessarily complementary. We could certainly echo ourselves into oblivion though, which would be bad. So our opponent can reanimate something, but if they're on pretty standard reanimator list, they're not necessarily going to have much to get through this Ensnaring Bridge. Now, I could be wrong. Sheoldred. Alright, I'm not going to cast Echo of Eons. Understood. How do we kill Sheoldred? Do we have anything in our sideboard that deals with Sheoldred? This deals 3 damage. That doesn't deal with Sheoldred. We need to hope our opponent animate deads. Oh my god. Sure. So we have an out, which is get Haywire Mite, destroy, animate dead. Understood, opponent. Going to be tough out there. Yeah. Sheoldred the Apocalypse hurts us a bit more. We cannot cast Echo of Eons because that just loses us the game. I think we plus on no targets. Then play out a seat of the Synod. We don't have anything we can get back with our Emry. I guess we can get back our Bauble. We don't have to crack it, right? We don't want the card from it, but once we deal with this Sheoldred, maybe we can get some cards off it. So it's a thing for later. Alright. So we'll take another 2 from this. Do we want to keep our Karn alive is the question. I guess we'll... Okay, you can take our Echo of Eons. It's better in the graveyard than in play anyway, in my hand. And it reduces the size of our hand, which is not so bad. Means that we can brick a couple of times and be okay. A Lion's Eye Diamond. As I live and breathe. Okay. So we could get greedy here and take 1 more activation of Karn, so we get to keep our Karn. I think I'm going to do that. It means we take 2 damage this turn. No targets. So we can't take any damage from thingy, but we're going to take 2 from the Sheoldred. This means our Karn sticks around after we've done our... Get the Haywire Mite, blow up the Ancient... Animate Dead, sorry. And then maybe... No, we shouldn't Echo. That's an insane thing. We won't do that. I guess we can Echo, and then if it's bad, we can just Lion's Eye Diamond it. So that's certainly a strategy. Because we kind of want to shuffle this Sheoldred away. Oh, this is pretty good. So we minus this. We go get ourselves a Haywire Mite. We play a Haywire Mite. I think we have to let our opponent gain some life here. I kind of want to cast this Urza. The only way we can do this is by taking 2 damage though. I guess. We'll cast this guy. And then we'll get the Lotus Petal back for our green mana. For the... Blowing up the Animate Dead. Yeah, so we're going to let them gain 2 life because we just... The thing we don't want to happen is have the Sheoldred in play. So if we blow up the Animate Dead, they might find another way of reanimating it this turn. Whereas next turn we can Echo of Eons the Sheoldred out of their graveyard and into their library, so it's going to be harder for them to deploy. Hopefully, that's the plan at least. Let's get rid of this Animate Dead. This also gives us 2 life, which is helpful when we've got a bunch of Ancient Tombs. We have a lot of mana, so we might be able to just deploy the things we draw of our Echo as well. Oh wow, they've scooped to that because we've kind of just hemmed them in. Interesting. Alright, I'll take it. So Faerie Macabres come in. Chalice is going to be good here. The Echo plan is an interesting one because it does sweep stuff out of their bin. And they seem to be on like a slightly more mid-rangey one. So I think we're going to want this Dismember as just a way of dealing with the Sheoldred. We still want the Crypt so that our Karn can just say, nope. I don't really want Kappa Cannoneer here because it's something they can put into play themselves if they thought sees us. We don't really want to have good targets for them if we can avoid it. I think we still want some of our wombo combo potential. We definitely need to keep blue cards and Force of Will. I think that's a given. Maybe trimming one of the Karns because it's a kind of an expensive thing, but it is one of the things that lets us put the game away once we get there. Our opponent's probably going to have Serenity, so I kind of want to cut a Bauble, a Mox Opal here. And what else do I want to trim? The Urza might be okay here. It's just a way of chucking a guy out. It's also blue cards. I can't really cut blue cards. It's probably the Shadow. Oh, the Shadowspear is a weird one because if they have a shouldered game, then we can Urza Saga Shadowspear and kind of at least stay at parity with the shouldered. So we kind of have to keep that. I don't think the side's very good, but it's blue. Wait, this is right. We've got 15 cards on our sideboard, haven't we? Yeah, because this is a 61 card deck. So we have actually finished sideboarding. Excellent. Okay. So we just trimmed a Karn and a Mox. Alright, we're looking at here. Yeah, Karn, Mox, Cannoneer went out. I think that's about right. We don't have a lot of graveyard hate. Getting that first game has been certainly useful. Interesting they got the shouldered there rather than some big thing. But I guess they were under the threat of Ensnaring Bridge. So they need to get something that could win around it. And that's probably all they had. But maybe you still just get the Grizzlebrand, then draw into the stuff that lets you put shouldered into play as well, and have a Grizzlebrand on top of it and more cards. Our hand doesn't really accomplish much. We can kill a shouldered, but we're going to get bopped by a lot of stuff. We kind of need like a Force of Will or a Faerie Macabre, I think. We have the turn 1 Echo, so maybe we can do something with this. We also have the Painted Servant combo, so we have multiple ways of locking this game up, potentially. I think we have to throw back the Narset here, even though it's a blue card. Because our plan is Painted Servant, so Urza Saga, Lotus Petal, Painted Servant, Lion's Eye Diamond, Echo of Eons, which is going to be especially good if our opponent does a Faerie Macabre on turn 1, aiming to reanimate turn 2, but our opponent started with a Swamp. They are unmasking, targeting us, so we are going to lose one of our various pieces here. They can take the LED and stop us winning them into a new 7, but they might not even mind that. It might just be the Painted Servant that goes. Sure, the LED. And an Entomb. Do they have a Lotus Petal? They do not. Weird they're doing that now then. Emry. Can we do anything with this Emry? Nope. We can cast our Emry, which next turn can wheel us. So we can put the thing on the stack and then pay for it by sacking one of the things that is giving it its affinity. It's a bit weird, but that's how it works. So next turn we can get back the Lion's Eye Diamond and go for a spin. I suspect Grizzlebrand is coming into play this turn, however. And that's going to be bad for us. It's a reanimate, though, so at least they don't get to draw 14 cards. Sure. So they can sculpt a nice hand, but then we can recycle it anyway. They can't discard us off of this Echo of Eons, but they might be able to kill the Emry with something like putting an Archon into play. Alright. Is there a way our opponent can die? I don't think we have anything that can kill our opponent. Take advantage of their low life total. There's the Grief. What would you like to take? Probably the Painted Servant. Sure. This means if they cast an Exhume, we at least get our guy back. Hullbreacher. That's a guy, isn't it? Not a guy we get to use right now, though. Okay, so I think we are on the let's play Lion's Eye Diamond and try and draw a whole bunch of cards. We don't really have any other option available to us right now. So our opponent sculpted a hand out of 9, so there's just 7 random ones. Oh, this is interesting. So we have a Lion's Eye Diamond. We have a Lion's Eye Diamond. We have a Hullbreacher we can't deploy, which is annoying. We have a Mishra's Bauble. Doesn't actually do anything for us right now. We have a Grindstone. It's not the most helpful, but it's certainly a thing that we're going to cast. Now what? Interesting. We can mill our opponent a little bit, but that's not going to get us anywhere. Can't cast this Urza. Alright. So what we're going to do with our Bauble is we can look at the top of our own library and then maybe crack a LED in response to cast a thing on top of our library if it's relevant. And then maybe we can grindstone ourselves into a... So that line could get us a Hullbreacher. And then if we can grind ourselves... No, we're not going to have the mana for that. Oh, no, we will, because this is going to come off, isn't it? So we get another Lines of Diamonds. So we could have the mana to then Echo of Eons with Hullbreacher in play. It's a line, right? You miss every shot you don't take. Now, this completely gets undone if they get to get rid of our Hullbreacher, for example. Actually, no, it doesn't change the line if the top card of our library is Hullbreacher, right? That's what we're playing for. We're going to have a lot of mana next turn. We're going to have 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 mana available to us. But what is it going to do? Now they can reanimate our Hullbreacher, which is going to be real bad for us. Right, so there's a Dark Ritual. So we might not be able to do this Mishra's Bauble line. And Entomb. Okay. Our opponent is going to give us a bad time. Okay, so we're losing our Emry. That's not so bad. Honestly, I'd rather they kill our Emry than reanimate our own Hullbreacher, given the line that we're trying to take. Okay, so get rid of Emry. I think we just get rid of... Doesn't really matter, does it? Then we just get rid of Urza. That's fine. So this can get us a Mox Opal to cast the Emry, which can dig into finding us an Echo more easily. We've got some lines. They're pretty tenuous, but it's the best we have. Our opponent can draw 7 cards again if they want to, and go to 1 life. Which means a Karn line might be something we could do. Although all our mana is lines like diamonds, that's not really getting us anywhere. Okay, so we don't get to mill 4 cards over with an Emry anymore. Right, let's look at the top card of our library. What is it? A Karn. A Karn that we can't cast. This is certainly on the awkward side. We have lethal damage coming in. We could shuffle this Karn away. But if we draw exactly Soul Land with our draw for turn, we can do a whole bunch of stuff. So let's try that. Soul Land, Soul Land, Soul Land. Oh, it wasn't the Soul Land. Because we could have got 1 mana from this, 2 from a Soul Land, and then 1 from the Mox. So now we have a choice, don't we? Our choice is float some mana. I think we are just getting another Lion's Eye Diamond here. Wait, no. We need... We don't have a way of going for a spin, do we? Well, we do. We can grindstone ourselves into Echo. I think that's the line we have to take here. Pretty bad. Let's hit ourselves with this grindstone. Do we find it? We did not find it. Okay, so we have nothing, and we're just going to die to these guys. Sure. Alright, we get to be on the play for the last game, which is certainly going to be helpful. I don't think we need to change anything here. I think we'll just submit and try again. Chalice would be a good draw. What does this hand do? What does this hand do? We can play some stuff out. We can play out an Emry. We have a Faerie Macabre. I think we can keep this one. It's kind of a shame that we have to crack our petal there. A Hullbreacher. Okay, so we're relying on our Faerie Macabre to do something, I think. But we have 6 cards plus the Chalices, so maybe 9 cards that interact with our opponent. So we can't really dig for 2 of them. I think that's not going to work out well for us, but we can... Well, we have dug to 1 of them. Cast the Faithless Looting, please. Thoughtseize. Yuck. Goodbye, Faerie Macabre. If we draw if they don't take the Narset and we draw a blue source, we might be able to echo them with a Narset next turn. Which is presumably what our opponent's thinking about here. If their hand isn't explosive, then they'll take the... Right. Or if they have multiple discard, they'll just... Right, yeah, so we're going to lose the Narset as well. Or do they pitch to this? And unmask. Sure. Do they have a Lotus Petal and follow-up? Or is this just taking our bits and pieces? Again, if we find a blue source, we can put an Urza into play, which is fine. That's actually a really good draw, I think. Okay, we'll target this Lotus Petal. Because it's all we can really do this turn. And we'll play a Lotus Petal. And then we'll hopefully win off of this Faerie Macabre. We drew both of them. Better lucky than good, right? Animate dead, targeting our Hullbreacher. I'm going to get rid of our Hullbreacher. And I'm going to get rid of your grief. No creatures for you. So this time we can cast the Urza. We found our own Hullbreacher though. That's pretty spicy. So let me think. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 to play Urza. That doesn't allow us to play the Hullbreacher as well. What is better here? The Urza or the Hullbreacher? It's a tough call, isn't it? I think we want the Hullbreacher in play. And we want to play it now, even though that doesn't help us. Actually, does it matter if we get it back now? I guess we'll be going to the next turn with a Lotus Petal to cast the Urza, yeah, so we should cast it now. Get this Lotus Petal back. And then once we get Urza up and running, we can use the Lion's Eye Diamond every turn as 3 mana to just funnel into Urza and just get random cards from our deck. So this shuts off Faithless Looting, which is quite nice. Wowzers, trousers indeed. I guess we want to cast this Urza first though. Wait, we have to do it this way, don't we? So we tap this for blue. We get this petal back. We cast our Urza. This gets us a creature. And then we tap this for blue. I do it this way now. Tap an untapped artifact I control. So we'll tap this for blue. And then we can sacrifice this. And wheel. Okay, as Lion's Eye Diamond is not a sacrifice. It's not a tap, sorry, it's just a sacrifice. My opponent is laughing in the chat. People like you shouldn't be allowed to play Magic for real. That's a little bit mean, and you've said that on my channel to many people, so. Alright, we win that game. Not sure the reanimator player can really be talking smack to people, but there we are. Some people are just like that. Alright, we should be 3-0 now, but we did punt the second round, so we're 2-1. Let's go to round 4. We're on the play for round 4. We certainly have an interesting hand, right? We can wheel with a Lion's Eye Diamond up. But is that something we want to do? If our opponent is a blue deck and they just counter the Echo of Eons, we've kind of just done nothing. If we can find any blue source, then our Emry gets to come into play first, and then it's worth doing. I don't think I can just keep this wheel. We're just getting a random 7 plus a Lion's Eye Diamond, but we risk Force of Will. I think we just mulligan. This is the much nicer hand for me, I think. I think we'll keep the Emry and put back the... Do you want to put back the Shadowspear? We keep the Shadowspear, it's part of Metalcraft. We kind of want the Emry to come into play. I think I'd rather have 2 Emrys, because at least the second one's a blue card. I think we have to lay out one of our lands first. So we're going to lay out the Tomb. This means we can pivot into a Karn if we need to, if we draw a soul land. I think I might just be on the Hullbreacher plan, depending on what our opponent does here. Chalice for 1? Yeah. Good stuff. I wonder what our opponent is up to over there. What are we going to draw? We've drawn a Narset. Does that change anything? Would we rather have a Hullbreacher in play or an Emry? I think I'd rather have a Hullbreacher. I think we'll go for a Hullbreacher play this time. It means we can just get into it pretty soon, I think. A Blood Moon. Okay, I will respond to Blood Moon with a creature. We could have floated the mana and then cast it afterwards, but it's much of a muchness. Alright. So we have this, which is not Metalcraft because we only have 2 artifacts. We can't cast this because we have no blue mana. Can't cast this, but we do have the threat, so that's something. If we can find another artifact, then we get blue mana back, and we get to operate a little bit under Blood Moon. Opponent plays a Rabble Master, that's going to outclass our Hullbreacher. Okay, this guy doesn't quite outclass the Hullbreacher, but it's pretty close, I think. Now we can hold back and kill one of them and stuff. Ugh, that's pretty bad for us, though. The Fury taking our Hullbreacher, that gets rid of our plan to just wheel and get all the treasure. Alright. We need to find an artifact. And we can start playing an Emry game. We don't have a lot of times to do it because our opponent has a threat on board. A Psy Master Thopterist is not the one, is it? Turns out that wheel hand might have actually been alright. But we didn't know that going into the match. And I don't think you can keep a hand that just completely folds to Force of Will when we're a deck that's not really comprised of that sort of fashion. We're supposed to overload those counters, not just walk right into them, I think. So we're going to take 5 this turn? No. Yeah, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the Mentor. Sure, so it's 5 this turn, then it's 7, and it's 9. So we've got 2 more draw steps unless they play a threat here. Alright, we're dead on our next turn. Understood. How do we get around this one? I don't think we do. Echo of Eons, that's one part of the puzzle, isn't it? But it's too late now. Alright, so we're looking at like mono red prison. I think Dismember's good here, but not a lot else. I think I do want the Shadowspear because these games can get a bit sort of in the weeds, if you will. Chalice feels like it's going to be pretty bad in this matchup. So we don't want these Chalices. That means we've got another 2 slots to fill. What would we like from our main deck, in our sideboard? Something that we're not going to... I think the Haywire Mite is an answer to the Blood Moon. I think that's something that I might be interested in. And possibly Ensnaring Bridge. But they tend to just have lots of guys, and then they can just go up the chain anyway. I don't think that's going to work out well for us, to be honest. Are we realistically going to be looking at... Like, the Lion's Eye Diamond isn't great. I think Walking Ballista just as a thing is probably fine. If we're having to play any of these main deck, I think the Walking Ballista is going to be the one that's going to have some text. Because under a Blood Moon, we can play the Walking Ballista, put a load of counters on it and get there. Back in the day, I used to win games with... Oh, geez. We have the Force, though, so we can kind of rely on that. So we can go turn 1 Saga, Shadowspear, turn 2 make a Saga Construct, turn 3 make a Saga Construct, and just try and beat our opponent down with some large men, hoping that the Force of Will punches a hole in the one thing that's going to ruin us. And maybe we can pivot into a Hullbreacher. We have to counterspell a Blood Moon here. Otherwise, we're going to get absolutely buried by it. It'll take us off of... Well, we don't have blue mana, but it will take us... Okay, it's a Chromox. I think we have to let the Chromox lie and see if we can take the Blood Moon out. A Trinisphere. That's an interesting one. It stops us from being able to counter other things. I think this is fine. I think Trinisphere is fine because we're going to hold this up anyway. So that's 3 mana. If we count this and we just get hit by a Blood Moon, then it's just lights out. So we can do this, holding up Force of Will. If not, we get to make a guy. I think Blood Moon is the only thing we Force of Will here. A Chalice X equals 1. That literally doesn't impact our deck. Well, it can stop the Grindstone. We'll just make this now because our opponent can't cast any more spells. This is the difficult turn though. Because do we make a token here and just try and ride it out? Or I think we just make a token, right? I think what we have on board is powerful. Do we though? Because if we could... No, we're going to make a Karn here actually. We're going to make a Karn and we're going to get rid of their Chromox. I think that's the better play here. Are we getting grindstones so we have that available to us, or is this a game where we just want the Mox Opal for mana? I think it's the Mox Opal, isn't it? We'll play our land. Actually, we can do this without taking damage, can't we? That's not true. We have to take damage because maths is hard. Let's get this Karn in. Say goodbye to Chromox. Attack in here. We can't play anything else because of the Trinisphere. Our opponent is now locked under their own Trinisphere, hopefully. Okay, so they've got another land. But they get one spell here. If it's Blood Moon, that's not even that bad for us here. Summon Spirit Guide. If this is Chaos of Chaos Adventurer, it could be a little bit annoying for us. Fiery Confluence. That's a pretty good one. We'll float. It doesn't matter, actually, what we're doing here. Sure, we just have to lose our things. Sure, we have a Karn, though. And they are locked under their own Chalice. What do we want to do here? I think we minus this and get ourselves a Liquimetal Coating. Where is it? And then we're going to hold up Force of Will. And if not, we'll dump a Hullbreacher into play. And then we'll just start Liquimetal Coating our opponent's lands, and then the game should be over. Okay, yeah, so they know exactly what we're going to do here. We're just going to strip mine them. Sure. So, do you want to do anything different here? I don't think so. The fact they've still got Chalices in is interesting to me. Chalice is not very good against us. We have a Grindstone that we're mainly going to be fetching off of Saga, I guess, anyway. And they have seen some 1-drops, but they're mainly Saga things. They should be putting that on 0 after they play their Chromox. We'll see. Sure, we'll just resubmit. And hopefully we can have maybe like a Force of Will hand into... I did ask for a Force of Will hand, but not like this. Not like this. We should mulligan this one. Okay. We have Force of Will. We have an Emry line. And then we can jam Karn on turn 2. Oh, we have to lose one of these cards, actually, don't we? So I think we lose one of the petals. We need to keep our blue cards. We'd rather have a payoff. We can rebuy the petal anyway. And if we're not drawing more lands, we're probably screwed anyway, so... And we let the Chromox hit. It's an interesting one. Sometimes you want to hit the Chromox, but you never know when that's the case. Goblin Rabblemaster. We'll say no to this. Pitching our... Should be the Echo of Eons. We're going to draw a Lion's Eye Diamond now. Our opponent's only down to 2 cards, so I don't really want to reload them even if we could. Okay, we drew another one anyway. This is 1 artifact, 2 artifact. Here's our Emry. What have we got? Literally nothing we can play from our graveyard. We do have this Lotus Petal. So we have 3 mana next turn unless we get 3 balled. The old Trinisphere. Chaos of Chaos Adventure here is very strong and probably will beat us. Yep. Sure. I hate the initiative mechanic. It's a real beating for us. So we can take out the Chromox this turn. But we're kind of behind if that's all we're trying to accomplish. That's blue. Go and get this. Play this. Cast this guy. So if we take out the Chromox, then it puts the counters on here and then kills the Karn. I think we can do that. I think we have to minus. We can get a Lion's Eye Diamond here and go for a spin. Don't know if I want to do that. I think I'd rather just put the Ensnaring Bridge in our hand and then have that for next turn. Is there anything we can do? I don't think there's anything we can do here. I think it's just Ensnaring Bridge. And then we'll lose the Karn, but we get the Ensnaring Bridge. Because we lose the Karn either way, unless they just go for the face. If they go for the face and just try and loop the initiative to try and beat us, then that's probably going to be quite effective. But it's going to be slower and give us time to maybe find a way to win the game. So we'll see what happens this turn. Like, the Karn shuts off the Chromox from tapping from mana while the Karn's still alive anyway. So they can't cast anything pre-combat, so they have to kill the Karn and then unlock their Mox. So I think they're very likely just to kill our Karn. They scryed and they put 1 top, 1 bottom, so that doesn't sound great for us. I'm going to come in at Karn, I should imagine. Yeah, there it is. but we at least got a card out of it. And we did save ourselves a bunch of life, right? Now, they could have that thing that blows up all our artifacts again, and that's going to make me sad. If they have it, they might just cast it now. Yeah, that's game over. That's game over right there. Not well. I guess we could draw a Lion's Eye Diamond. That's not a Lion's Eye Diamond, is it? Let's go Lotus Petal back. We can't play Seat the Synod because this doesn't let you get lands back. It's only things you can cast. Alright, if we find a mana next turn, we can deploy Ensnaring Bridge. I think maybe they're supposed to wait on the bridge to fire that off. It is very tempting to double wasteland your opponent now. Okay, so they're goading our Emry. That doesn't do anything. They just want to get across and get themselves a skeleton, I guess. Which is brutal. So we have to hit a land this turn, really. If we hit a land, we can make the Ensnaring Bridge. Otherwise, we are getting absolutely pounded over here. Pick 5, and then they've got 14 damage for next turn. Sekenzin, that's a thing that they might be able to attack us with. Okay, they've played it, that's fine. Oh yeah, that was the thing that they revealed, sure. So now it's up to us. Minamo, so we drew a land. Alright. Let's go blue. Crack this, get this back. Let's cast our bridge. Okay. So we're not taking damage, but they have Throne of the Dead 3 about to come up. We need a way of winning the game. And we have these 2 blanks in hand. We could draw 7 cards if we find a Lion's Eye Diamond. But that might be a really terrible idea. So, not sure. Okay, so they got Fury, so they don't have an Emry either anymore. So we will need to find things that we can cast to stay in this game before our opponent loots around the city, the Undercity, enough times to kill us. Or they just find the thing that blows up in Ensnaring Bridge. Okay, so our 0-drops we can cast to get them out of our hand, but we can't put them into play to do anything. Mages of the Moon. Okay, we don't have any curve mana. Yeah, our opponent is absolutely bodying us over there. Emry, Lurker of the Loch. We cannot cast this. So the Mages of the Moon can attack now. Okay. So a Lion's Eye Diamond can keep us alive, but we need to find a way to actually win this game. Now if we just hit runner lands, we might be able to do something. So if we can draw our island, for example, then we can deploy the Emry, and then that can go and get us a Lotus. Well, actually, it can't get us a Lotus Petal because of the Chalice. But we have ways to not lose this game. But it's not looking great. Alright, so now both of these creatures can come in. And that'll put us to 2, and then we die to the trap the following turn if we don't do anything. What could we possibly draw? Maybe we could do some sort of ridiculous Echo of Eons chain that ends up with us somehow grindstoning our opponent out. That's a weird possibility. So we'll take our... Okay, they put the counters just on the Fury. Sure. I guess the idea is that they want to keep their low power guy. Chalice for 3. Okay, that's not the number that they need to put that on. Mishra's Bauble. Sure, we are dead. Yeah, we kind of just got a little unstuck by their prisony pieces there. A little bit awkward for us. I think Chaos of Chaos Adventure is just so brutal, and our deck is so bad at dealing with creatures. But obviously the thing that really killed us was Fiery Confluence, right? I think we can win this game with if a Fiery Confluence doesn't happen. But yeah, we just lost all of our mana sources. Alright, we are 2-2 going to the final round. Let's see if we can get a positive record. This hand looks like a pretty good hand. I think we can keep this one. We can spam a load of stuff out. Our opponent's on the play, though. So maybe they get Sparta's headquarters. Or Spara. What is this? This is a Bantland. Okay. Understood. God, I'm sad I'm not playing a deck with Wastelands. So we have a Lotus Petal. And a Bauble. And a Mox Opal. And we can play an Emry. Alright, we're just in on this, are we? Chalice of the Void. That's not really very helpful. We can play a Saga out and start playing Saga games. Do we pop this Bauble knowing that we have a Seat of the Synod in hand? I think we do. What is this? Lands you control, untap a land, mill cards. Okay, so it's not that scary. Just doing some things. Growth Spiral. Okay, our opponent's some sort of ramp type strategy. I guess Rainbow, because they're using Ren to get all their colours as well. Swords, 2 Plowshares. Goodbye, friend. So, we'll play this out. We'll make a guy. Then we'll cast this off of our Mox Opal. Get some more cards into our bin. A Thought Monitor, you say? Don't hate that one. We also have a Lion's Eye Diamond. Can we kill our opponent next turn? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 4, 7, 8, 9 from the Chalice. So 1 shy, I think. If we draw a Soul Land, I think we can kill our opponent with Painter Combo this turn. I've done my maths. Because we get Lion's Eye Diamond, so we can go like 1, 2, 3, 4, make the Karn. Okay, I'm just going to exile that guy, that's fine. What do we draw? We draw an Ancient Tomb. Do we go for it? Is our opponent going to be a blue deck? Well, we've seen this, but how blue are they going to be? Is the question. We could just try and win the game, or we could try and grind it using some of the tools we have available to us right now. I think we should take the slightly conservative route here and make these things. Now, do we still get the grindstone is the real question here. I think we do. That opens us up to many ways of winning the game down the line. How many artifacts do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which means this is going to cost us 2 mana. So let's target the Thought Monitor and play it from the graveyard. Get some cards in us. Okay. We've got a lot of stuff here. So if our opponent's a natural order deck, they could natural order into Attrax this turn. Green, green, white. This is going to be for the Ren. Okay, that is not going to do very much for them, I don't think. This returns a permanent card from your graveyard, I believe it is. You may return a permanent card. Sure. Like some sort of Bant Uro control deck by the looks of things. So I just played an island. Alright. Not very exciting, but here we are. Wowzers, trousers. We've really got it all here, haven't we? Is there any way that we can... Yeah, we can just keep replaying the Painter's Servant. Alright, let's take some damage. Play this guy. This demands a Force of Will. Sure. Force of Will pitching array. Sure. Let's get his Painter back. And then black. Okay, our opponent scoop into that. So they did have a Force of Will, so we're right not to go all in on the Karn, Lion's Eye Diamond type stuff. Just sort of grind a little bit further into it. So some kind of Bant control deck. They've shown that they want to be doing some graveyard stuff. So I don't hate the Faerie Macabres here. I'm a little bit less keen on going all in with our like Echo plan. Although it's quite good against these sort of like dirtly slower decks. What would I want to replace for these Faerie Macabres? I think our opponent's going to be doing ponders and all sorts, so these chalices are going to be fine. I think we want all the stuff to mess with them here. Maybe Emry is a little bit suspect because the deck's probably going to have Caracas in. So maybe we trim one of the Emrys. I think we still want the grindstone just so we can go down that beatdown route. And the Shadowspear, so we can go down the beatdown route and get past our opponent's 1/1 chump blockers so we can trample over into their planeswalkers. I imagine they probably have more planeswalkers. Do we want to get rid of a Lion's Eye Diamond or an Echo, or do we just want to keep the 3 and 3? I think we probably do. We just need lots of payoffs. Tough choice if we want this other Faerie Macabre. Maybe we just want one as like a little hedge. We've got Tormod's Crypt anyway. Maybe we're just supposed to keep our main deck as is and keep this Emry in instead of this Faerie Macabre. We know they're having an array. and Life from Malone. Sure, I'm going to just have this one Faerie Macabre. And just hedge a little bit by removing the thing that gets answered by Karakas very easily. What does this hand do? This hand makes a turn 1 Emry. And then goes on to do other wonderful things. Hopefully. So, play this and this out, we don't get to cast the Emry. So we have to play this out and play this one out. This makes our Emry free. I don't think we play out the Lion's Eye Diamond. What have we got here? Echo of Eons. We could play out the Lion's Eye Diamond. I think I'll take a card here from our opponent. I want to see what's on top of their library. An Ice Fang, and I'd like to get another card deeper into our deck. I'm going to hold on to this Lion's Eye Diamond because I don't want them to know that we can Echo. So hopefully this is going to be a Hullbreacher game where we get to do the thing. Okay, so we can make a Hullbreacher our opponent's end step if we want to, or we can just jam a Hullbreacher straight away down their throat and then try and do the thing. So we have two options. Well, we have more than that. We can play a Sai, we can play the Chalice. We've got a lot of options. You see what our opponent is trying to accomplish. Maybe we play the Chalice and try and bait out some action. I guess we'll see if our opponent F6s or not when we play out something. Okay, they're not F6. Feels like they have some interaction. Do we suspect Daze? Possibly. I think we play out this Lotus Petal and then we'll go for a Chalice. This is like a must counter for our opponent, I think. Yeah. So there's the Force of Will and the Ice Fang that we knew about. So we can cross that off our list. And we can go and get a Bauble now. We can see what's in our opponent's hand and see if that changes anything. What have you got, opponent? An Uro. We don't care about Uro. I think I would like this Mishra's Bauble. Because this lets us see deeper in our opponent's deck. Because we're guaranteed to see another card that we don't know about. Okay, so they've got 2 blanks in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. And we get 2 more cards. I think we're looking okay. There's definitely ways this can go wrong for us, but we have a Hullbreacher potentially. So that's one of the cards out of their hand. There's the Wren. So we know they've got an Uro. So is there a blue card to go with it is the question. What we can do is we can start out on the Chalice and see if they counter the Chalice. What do they get back? Field of the Dead. Okay, so they're proper in it for the long haul. In it for a long time, not a good time. A Karn. Interesting. We can try and bait them with the Chalice and see if they counter the Chalice. So we can still play out our land here. Let's go for the Chalice. Let's cast this. Is this going to get any action from our opponent? It did not get any action. Let's try a Hullbreacher. Let's see if they are AFK. Alright, we're just in here. Whoop. And they've conceded the game to the wheel. Sure. So we ended up with a 3-2 on that league. However, we did punt the second round, which we should have won, because we forgot that we had... I say we, I did. I forgot that I had a Walking Ballista in my sideboard that would have won the game for us because our opponent was on 1 life. I was so thinking about the creatures on the board and how to get through them and stuff like that. I just completely blanked on the fact that I could just go and get Walking Ballista. Still haven't quite got the hang of talking over while I'm recording sometimes, and I try and be quick because I don't want to run to time, and I sometimes make mistakes when I should spend a little bit more time. To be honest, that's what happened there. It's a punt from me, and I can't excuse it. But we got the 3-2, and the deck got a 4-1, the player got a 3-2, right? That's how we're going to label this one. So let's chat about the deck. So this is a deck that has a lot of different plans embedded within it. However, what I like about it is those plans all line up together in a lot of ways. So we are an artifact combo deck. So fast mana and stuff is great with Painted Servant, Grindstone, right? We just need 6 mana, make these things, kill your opponent. So that lines up really well with that. Fast mana also lines up really well with as a Saga because it lets you pump out the tokens on turn 2 and then just get that beatdown plan going. So that makes a lot of sense. The Lion's Eye Diamond does work quite nicely with Painter's Servant in terms of being able to activate a grindstone earlier than you normally would. So you could just go turn, like we could turn one people here, right? Ancient Tomb, Lotus Petal, Lion's Eye Diamond, Painter's Servant, grindstone. That's a turn 1 kill. So we have that in us, which is quite nice. And obviously fast mana works really well with Chalice. Now Chalice is a bit awkward when you're playing the grindstone combo. If you happen to draw the grindstone and you've got Chalice in play already, then you have to get the Karn for it and you just got this dead card in hand, which is really kind of annoying. But what you can do, if you really get down to it, is you can play the grindstone into Chalice. It goes in the bin. Then you Echo of Eons it to put it back in your deck so that you can then find it with the Saga. Not great, but it's certainly a thing that the deck can do. So what I also like here is that we're not that many cards for each of our plan, right? So we're definitely condensed down our Painter's Servant grindstone to just a few cards here. Now obviously one grindstone doesn't sound like a lot, but we've got 4 Sagas, so that's 5 grindstones. 2 Painters isn't that many, but if we're wheeling and stuff we can find it. But the way that this all works is Karn really. And I did play a deck a little while back that had, it was a Painter / Dark Depths deck. So it had 2 plans that were, had 2 plans that were different, but not that much of the stuff that was enabling them lined up with each other. So you could end up just drawing half of a thing that doesn't do anything, and then half of another thing that doesn't do anything. And you just had all these cards that didn't do anything on their own and were blanks. But because we get value from basically all of our artifacts, which is why I quite like the paint cast deck that I played on my channel before. I think I trophied with it actually. I like the ability to just have artifacts just be good in the deck. And Grindstone has some good synergy with Emry. You can mill yourself to find the thing you want as well. So the pieces actually fit together really nicely. Now, Emry and Echo of Eons is a weird one because Emry can put it in your graveyard. But Emry wants you to have food for your graveyard. But if you're casting an Echo, you're probably going to have something to put in your graveyard for the Emry anyway. So there can be a little push-pull tension if you've got something really good that you don't want to lose. But I think it's probably still fine there. The Urza was something we never really did anything with. I think our opponent scooped when we cast an Urza one game and that was about it. But it could have been any creature at that point. I think we were probably fine. So Urzas might be where I would look at changing some stuff up. Although obviously Urza is great with large amounts of mana. It's pretty good for the beatdown plan. But perhaps we're looking at maybe having more Psi or Thought Monitor type stuff. Or Narset, or even... See, the problem with Narset is it's blue-blue, right? So it's a bit awkward. So maybe we could have another Psi and maybe just a good old-fashioned Thought Cast to help the wheels spin a little bit. Now, obviously, we are running the wheel thing instead, like an actual wheel. But, yeah, I like that. Like, Hullbreacher is a good creature on its own anyway. Echo of Eons is the one thing in this deck that isn't great on its own, really. Or that doesn't really have that much that it goes with in the deck. Like, it's a blue card for Force of Will, and it's good with Lion's Eye Diamond. We don't really have another way of discarding it. We can put it in the graveyard with Emry, but that's, a little bit random. It's not as if we have a discard outlet like Faces Looting, so we can just chuck it in the bin. So the Echo is a little bit awkward, I would say, in the deck. But it's obviously a very powerful plan, and I understand why it's in the deck, and I think it is clearly worth it. And we've won game. We literally just won the last round because of having an Echo Hullbreacher plan against a sort of dirtly blue deck. So, yeah, I think this deck on paper looks like a bit of a mess. But now I've played it, it feels pretty strong. I will say, actually, this Cavern, it didn't come up. But I think I would quite like just a second island. Like, there's Blood Moons and stuff out there, right? I think you either want the Cavern or an Otawara. You need something to interact with your opponents. Because we didn't have much in the way of dealing with creatures. Because we have a Karn board, we just say, this is what we're doing. Let's hope it kind of gets there. So maybe if the Urzas were size, we could have a little bit more defense in terms of just spamming guys out. But that's not going to help us in the matchups we lost, really. So, well, the only matchup we properly lost, and it wasn't because I punted, was the mono-red prison deck, where they just had the blow up all your artifacts type card, which is always going to be difficult for us to beat if we don't have another Force of Will handy. So I think we can just chalk that one up to the matchup a little bit. So, yeah, this deck felt pretty good, to be honest. And I know that the paint cast deck in Legacy has fallen off a little bit because people have started playing Gaia's Blessing and Emrakul in their sideboard as a singleton, because it's one card from your sideboard, but it's always going to be relevant against Painter. You don't have to draw it, so it just means that you kind of have a load of extra value in the matchup that might otherwise be difficult. So people have just gone back to playing regular 8 cast instead of Paint cast. So this is a deck that where the Painter stuff is good, you can just still do that and get people, but the rest of the deck also is doing some really impressive things that you can function quite well with. So you can just Hullbreacher people, and instead of, oh, we're Hullbreacher in, we have like just the Hullbreacher as our win condition and we're just playing like Narsets and Teferis and stuff, we can just go, okay, so we've spun the wheel, let's go deploy a Karn and make some cool stuff, or let's deploy our Urza and start spinning that and doing all sorts of stuff, or a Kappa Cannoneer. So we've got more threat base, which I really like, than the Echo decks, and we've got more versatility than the Painter decks, and we've kind of got, well, we've got more versatility than 8 cast as well in some ways, just because we've got this whole Hullbreacher plan. Yeah, this deck has genuinely impressed me, and the record should be better than the one I got because I made a mistake, but that happens. So I hope you enjoyed this one. This is a really fun donation deck, actually, and if you would like to send me a deck to play, you can find me on Twitter at Crucible of Words, or you can come to my Discord, which is in the link below in the description. You can just click that and you can chat to me. And you can pay me to play your deck like I have done today. All right. I'm quite tired now, so I'm going to go to bed, but I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.